basically saying that she is freed from this relationship that she has with her brother. Hi BookTube, it's my Rennet We Last Week book, and today we are wrapping up the second half of July 2021. How did we get here so quick? God only knows. So, the second half of the reading month was a little bit hit and miss. There were a couple of non-successes, but you know, overall July was good. It was good. I've still got a couple of books off my TBR that I need to finish, but I've not got long to go and I'm going to finish them up probably tonight. So the first book I finished in the second half of the month was Carnage by Sarah Bailey. I was pure buzzing for this to come out and it was totally worth the wait. So I'm not a huge fan of reverse harems. Yes, I know I'm like the only person that reads romance who is not a huge fan. I know this. I just don't usually vibe with them for no other reason than I quite like it if we either have two people or a poly relationship. There's just something about a reverse harem that doesn't work for me, and I don't know what it is. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. But I actually really enjoyed this one, and I will tell you for why in just a second. So, some background. Carnage is the first book in a new series by Sarah Bailey called The Four Horsemen, and the first book is based around Pestilence, which is Prescott, one of the guys in the book. Now, I normally don't like reverse harems, mainly because I find that you have this multitude of maleness, but all the characters often end up feeling kind of samey, like they don't have kind of distinctive personalities, and even when they do, because there's so much focus being put on four separate like heroes, it ends up lacking in one hero or another. I don't know if it's just I've been like unfortunate with the reverse harems that I've chose to read in the past, but anyway, so Carnage. Scarlet, the heroine in this book, has amnesia. Something's happened to her and she's lost all her memories. The Four Horsemen, Prescott, Francis, West, and I can't believe I forgot the other guy's name. I'll put the text in because my mind has completely went blank. Anyway, so they work in like the finance industry, and it seems like Scarlet was like best friends with them when they were younger, but something's happened. She's ended up with amnesia. We don't know what it is yet. So she ends up kind of infiltrating the guy's office because she's there to kind of bring them down, but she doesn't know that she already knew them. Anyway, throughout the course of the book, she ends up developing feelings for all of the horsemen, but seeing as this book was based around Preston's character, it's more kind of focused on Scarlet and Preston, although there are group scenes involved. I was left with a cliffhanger at the end of this, and I was just like, I knew there was a cliffhanger coming because it was in the synopsis, it was there, it was blatantly stated that there was going to be a cliffhanger, but I still was not prepared when the cliffhanger came around. The four heroes in the book have very distinct personalities. Like, even if you had them all having dialogue without mentioning who it was that was speaking, because their personalities are very clearly laid out, you would be able to follow the conversation. You would be able to follow what was happening in the scene. And that's usually why I don't like reverse harems, because the heroes are either too similar or there's not enough personality there in any of them. And Sarah Bailey really managed to do a reverse harem where I actually feel invested in all 5 characters involved, and I actually can see fully developed personalities for 5 different people. So loving that aspect of it specifically. There is some group scenes involved in this. There is some sensory deprivation. That scene was exquisite. I loved it. Content warning for some dubious consent and also for just violence. So yeah, it surprised me. It really did surprise me. I really enjoyed the book. Gave it 4 stars. The next book I read was actually a novella. and it was part of a series called the Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey. And an incredibly sad turn of events, I found out the day that I finished the last book that S.T. Abbey was one of 3 pen names of C.M. Owen. She actually passed away last week, which was incredibly sad news to hear, obviously. But I read the 5 books in the series, and they're very short, they're all novellas. So I'm just going to review the series as a whole instead of individually. So overall, the series got 5 stars. I'd say out of the 5 books, 3 of them were 5 stars and 2 of them were 4 stars, but we're giving them a 5 because I was fully invested. Normally, if I read a series, I will read the first book, then read something else as a palate cleanser, then read the next book, then read something else, and then read the next book. But this, I literally couldn't stop. It was one after the other. Each novella ended on a cliffhanger, and I couldn't stop reading until I was done. So basically, the Mindfuck series is based around Lana, who is a serial killer, and Logan, who is an FBI agent. So Lana has had something horrific happen to her in her teenage years, which has sent her on a revenge killing spree. She is literally an icon, and I loved her. And she ends up meeting Logan. Now, she doesn't know that he is FBI when they meet, so it wasn't like she was like developing a relationship with him just to get out of like getting into trouble for her crimes. They just happen to meet each other and fall in love. So first, I'm going to lead with the trigger warnings. So there's very graphic descriptions of sexual assault. There is very graphic descriptions of torture. There is very graphic descriptions of murder. It is grim. There were times in the book where I felt a bit queasy. Like, it is dark. So keep that in mind before going into it, because I genuinely think it could be very, very triggering because of the sheer detail that is involved. Anyway, so I started reading this series for the romance aspect of it, but that wasn't what I stayed for. I stayed for Lana's revenge story arc. Like, this was wild. Admittedly, suspension of belief is required because some of like the things that happen, particularly towards the end, are so extra. That her best friend, who is helping carry out these revenge killings, the things that he manages to get a hold of, you're like, what? So yeah, it was really good. Like, it was genuine romantic suspense in its purest form, with gore, with dark romance. It was just so good. Could not put it down, as I have already boldly and emphatically stated. I just loved it. Like, I couldn't, like, see, to be honest with you, right, as much as the romance was going along, I was wanting the 2 of them to be together. Like, that was not the be all and end all for me. See, if the 2 of them hadn't got together and didn't get the happily ever after, happy for now situation, I would still have been delighted with this book because I was so invested in Lana. It was such a wild ride. It was crazy, and I absolutely adored it. The next book I read was A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. Not going to talk too much about it because, like I said last month, I'm buddy reading it with Bethany and Megan, and we haven't talked about it yet. So we're going to get round to that. What I will say is I gave this book 5 stars, and I absolutely loved it. So in A Court of Wings and Ruin, that's where we have the sort of crescendo of all the stuff that's been happening in the prior 2 books. And let me tell you, there were so many points in this book that hit me hard emotionally. Now, in my defence, I also was experiencing quite intense PMS at the time, so that could be related. But oh my god, the ending of this book, like directly towards the end, something happens that actually wrenched my soul out of my body, and I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? Like, I don't think I've cried like this reading a book in ages, and I cry reading all the time, but this was like uncontrollable. The kids were coming in from the next room to make sure that I was okay, because they thought I'd hurt myself, and I was like, no, I'm just reading this book and I'm feeling all kinds of feelings, and I'm really going through it right now. It was, oh god, loved it so much. I gave it 5 stars. I can admit when I'm in the wrong, okay? And I went into the A Court of Thorns and Roses series really not expecting to enjoy it, and kind of just not hate reading it, but not expecting to love it. I kind of thought it was just going to be alright. I was proved wrong, I can admit it. It was really good so far. I've still got A Court of Frost and Starlight and A Court of Silver Flames to read. Here is a bit of my issue though. Here is a bit of my issue with the ACOTAR fandom. Not necessarily the fandom, but the people that have read it and are recommending it on booktok, and everybody seems to be focusing on the fact that there is like steam involved in it, right? But I genuinely have to say that while I appreciated the kind of mild levels of steam that were like going through the book, that wasn't it for me. Like, I actually really genuinely enjoyed the plot. I actually genuinely enjoyed the romance unfolding. I am 100% still a simp for Rhysand, and I don't think that's going to change. And when the adaptation rolls around for this, if this gets poorly cast, normally when something gets cast in a way that the fans don't enjoy, for example, when Sam Heughan was cast for Jamie Fraser and everybody went crazy, I was like, bitch, seriously, just wait and see. And obviously nobody in the world could have played Jamie better than Sam Heughan could have. Don't even think about hitting up the comments saying X amount of people could have played the character better. When Twilight came out and everybody was unhappy because Robert Pattinson was playing Edward, and then he actually nailed it. Admittedly, Twilight isn't the best movie series of all time, but you know, he did it and he did it well, and he fit the character and it was great, okay? But I am going to be seriously unhappy if they like poorly cast the adaptation for this, because I have a very solid vision of what I expect from Feyre and Rhysand. There was a bit of come and go with Twilight. There was a little bit of come and go and there was a little bit of come and go with Outlander because of how I had kind of pictured the characters before the films came out. But like, this is really, really vividly intense. I wasn't expecting to feel this kind of way about it. So anyway, how did I get here? Yeah, so the fandom, like like, it's a genuinely good story. It's just, I think when people are reading it and they're complaining because it wasn't spicy enough, I think that people might be focusing too much now on the spice than they are on the storylines and the romance. And while there is nothing wrong with reading smut, you know I love it, you know I read it all the time, you know that I totally appreciate any steam that's put in a book. I think that, like, if you are looking for pure smut, you should be looking at erotica rather than romance, because while you get the smut with romance, if all you are caring about is the smut, go down the erotic romance series, read erotica, read smut. You know, it is available out there exclusively if that's all you want from a book, so just putting that out there. So yeah, loved it, absolutely adored it. The next book I read was Trust Falling for You by Sharish Reed, and I was not expecting to enjoy this as much as I did. So I gave this one 5 stars as well. So I forgot the characters' names, obviously. um, so the hero and the heroine work together. They're both teachers at this high school or university, and they are rivals. So this is a rivals slash enemies to lovers with some forced proximity in there. And they end up going on a team building trip with the rest of the faculty, and like it's very cheesy camp kind of tasks that they're getting them to do. Like the staff are just like, okay, uh, and then it turns out that there is a flood in one of the cabins, and the hero and the heroine have to share the same cabin. There are 2 beds, so it's not one bed. It is one cabin, however, and the 2 of them have to share the cabin. So there has already been attraction to each other, but they just dislike each other. And they bond really quite nice and slowly through this book. I love a grumpy sunshine dynamic, and this had it in spades. I love opposites attract. This had it in spades. And I really loved the hero in this because you could see from like his personality from an outsider's perspective. I don't know if he has anxiety or whatever, but he is really withdrawn in a social situation and prefers not to get involved as much as other people might. And I found the hero really relatable in a sense of, if I was stuck on a team building retreat with the people in my workplace, like as much as I talk to them and enjoy their company, like I would probably be quite shy and reluctant to take part in activities unless I had someone else, unless there was a specific person there in the workplace who made me feel comfortable enough to participate freely the way that the other members of the faculty were taking part. Anyway, so the romance in this was great. Like the 2 of them began to trust each other. The 2 of them had completely misjudged each other the whole way. It was a mature romance. Both of the characters were, I think, 38 or 39. So again, there was another level of relatability there for me, which I appreciated. I really, really loved this. There were points in the book, I don't know if it was marketed as a romantic comedy or just a contemporary romance, but it was funny as well. Loved the hero, loved the heroine, loved the story, loved everything about it. And when it came to the steam in the book, I love a hero that is very gentlemanly and seems like very kind of, what's the word? Buttoned up, proper, like sensible. And then it turns out he's actually a bit of a freak. And that was kind of the situation that we had here. Like it was very kind of strict and orderly and to the point, and then as soon as there became any sort of physical dynamic, like he was into it, and he was into it. He could talk the talk, he could walk the walk, and I was vibing completely. Like I said, I gave this one 5 stars, I think, and I seriously would recommend it because I just picked it up on a whim. I had one of the little cutesy cartoon covers, wasn't expecting like loads from it, and I actually ended up really enjoying it. So, highly recommend. Next, I read the Curvy Librarian series by Frankie Love and Kaylin Evans. They have punny titles and lots of book puns throughout the book. So the first one is called Talk Wordy to Me, and we have a librarian who has a patron that is trying to set her up with his grandson. She eventually follows through with the date, and then it goes on from there. So that's fine. They're very, very short. They are novellas. There wasn't enough in this for me for where we got. The second book was Check Her Out, which was different social classes, very different social statuses. And the third one I have forgot the name of, which I actually DNF'd. was about a librarian who ends up wanting to have a baby, but then she meets this guy, blah blah blah. Here is my problem. I gave the first 2 books 3 stars, right? And I gave them 3 stars because I really liked the characters, and I really liked the concept of the stories, and I really liked the steam that was in them. But I know in my heart of hearts, insta love isn't for me. I don't enjoy it the same way as I do a slow burn, or even just a sort of standard paced romance in a book. It just doesn't work for me. I don't know why. It's not that I don't believe in love at first sight. It's just that when I'm reading, I want a story where I see these people fall in love over a long or short period of time, and it's not instant. These were so rushed. These were so speedy. Like the insta, I'm surprised like they weren't just marked as they were already in love before they met. And that's why I DNF'd the 3rd book, because I'm gonna give a spoiler warning here, so fast forward to when the next book cover comes up here. Okay, so the 3rd book, I can't remember the name of it, but we have the librarian who wants to start a family, but she's not met anybody yet, so she decides to go and do IVF, and she meets a guy, right, and they've literally known each other for minutes, and he offers to be her sperm donor and have the baby with her, and I was like, bitch, having a baby is like a lifelong commitment. I can understand if you have a one night stand and you fall pregnant and then you have to make a decision, are you going to raise the baby together, are you going to raise the baby separately, and all of that. But like actually meeting each other and then an hour later just say, okay, so let's do this together, just seems a bit much. And I just couldn't. Like that wasn't even just insta love, that was like insta family vibes, and I don't know how I felt about that. But I didn't enjoy it, and I DNF'd it. It just wasn't for me. The next book I read was His Virgin Widow by Melinda Barron. So our heroine Charlotte and George, who is the Duke of Essex. Is it Essex? Anyway, it doesn't matter. She is a virgin widow. So she got married and her husband died on the night of their wedding. So she is a widow. She's also a virgin still. And people are trying to kind of like snap her up now that she's out of mourning, but at the same time everybody also kind of thinks that she's a murderer and that she murdered her husband, so that's not ideal. So she stumbles upon a situation that happens in the Lord of Essex library, and basically finds out that there is a BDSM kind of club happening where the guys get together, spank ladies, have a good time, and then go home. And she's intrigued. She's really intrigued. But she kind of gets strong-armed into participating. Not forced, but, like, there's some pressure there. I didn't like this, mostly because of how it was plotted. So, I was, like, fully here for like the beginning of the relationship, and I was fully here for like how the BDSM element of it unfolded with the impact play and stuff. But then like halfway through it they threw in a murder mystery, and then everything was a bit too convenient from there on. Everything was wrapped up too quick. I didn't like the fact that there were situations where she wanted him to stop with impact play, and he was telling her no when she was telling him to stop. And I know that probably in historical BDSM circles, safe words might not have been a thing back then. So for posterity's sake with regards to staying historically accurate, maybe it was okay, but it didn't. But I couldn't enjoy it because I was just like, this is making me uncomfortable. Please just stop. She's telling you to stop. She doesn't like it anymore. Like, quit it. So I gave it 2 stars, and I'm not planning on finishing the series. If you're interested, the series is called The Rakes of Mayfair. It was just, it didn't quite do it for me. I almost DNF'd it, but I went, no, I'm going to see this out to the end. But it just wasn't for me. The last book I finished last month was Say Yes to the Marquess by Tessa, which is the second book in the Castles Ever After series. So I gushed about Romancing the Duke. Like, I loved it so much. It was one of my new favourite historical romances ever. And I get scared in a series when a book is really good, because I think like nothing's gonna match up to it, nothing's gonna be as good. But I loved Say Yes to the Marquess, however you pronounce it. So Cleo has been engaged for like 8 years, so it's very much a Pam situation where she's been engaged, they've not set a date, it keeps getting put off, it's just she is a perpetual fiance. And Cleo eventually decides that she's like, I've had enough, I want out of this engagement. I'm gonna start my own brewery, I'm gonna meet a man, I'm gonna have a good time, I'm gonna be an independent woman. So she has to get Rafe, who is her fiance's brother, to sign papers. Basically says that she is free of her obligation to marry his brother, but he refuses to sign it, and he's like, no, you're gonna get married because I don't want to do XYZ, so you have to get married to him so that I can go and continue my boxing career and just being a general disappointment to the family, because that's how he sees himself. But then he does, so his methodology to get her to marry the brother is to go and plan the wedding with her, and it's so sweet. So again, grumpy sunshine vibe. Cleo is pure buzzing about this castle that she lives in, and she just wants to live there and have a brewery and just have a good time in her castle and just be happy. But Rafe is like, no, you're gonna marry my brother, and she just lets him see like the wonders of her castle and how she feels and whatever. And they already knew each other when they were younger, and he had a crush on Cleo anyway when they were younger. So he's trying to resist this sort of re-attraction to her, and she's trying to resist this attraction to him, because obviously regardless of what happens, whether the engagement is broken off or not, like, she still has to think this is my fiance / ex-fiance's brother. So yeah, there's that. But their relationship unfolding was so good. Like, Rafe was the hero who comes across as the kind of grumpy alpha male, but is actually a bit of a cinnamon roll inside. Like, he does all of these nice things for her with regards to planning this wedding, and he goes above and beyond to try and make her happy and make her want to get married. And it's like, you can see from an outsider's perspective that all of these nice things that he's doing because he knows her, he knows what she likes, he loves her, he cares about her. So like, watching that unfold was just precious, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was one of those books that I was seriously annoyed if I had to go. It was one of those books where I was seriously annoyed if I had to stop reading it to go and do something. I was like, I would really rather just sit and read the whole thing and get peace and not have to have any adult responsibilities throughout that process. I don't remember if I gave it 4 or 5 stars. I'm pretty sure it was 5 stars. Regardless, I absolutely loved it, and I highly recommend it. So the 2 books in my TBR that I didn't finish was Hang the Moon by Alexandra Belfleur, which I am almost finished now. I read quite a bit of it today. I think I've got like 50 pages left, which I'm just adoring, by the way. And I also haven't finished When a Scot Ties the Knot by Tessa, which is the 3rd book in the Castles Ever After series. So I'm going to get round to finishing them hopefully tonight. So as usual, any important links will be in the description box below, along with all of my social medias. You can come and follow me, we can be friends, we'll talk about books, we can have a good time. It'll be glorious I hope you're having a good day. I hope you're having a good evening. I hope you're having a good afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are. I hope life is going well for you. I hope that wherever you are, the weather is appropriate for your current needs. I hope that you are enjoying whatever you're reading. Did you read anything in July that particularly stood out? Should I read it? Was it amazing? Did you give it a 5-star? Have you read any of these books? Did you love them? Talk to me in the comments and let me know how you are and what you've been reading, and if life's good. If life's not good, it's okay. Life can't always be good for everybody all at the one time. You will get through this. We will all get through this together. You are special. You are a 1 in a million. And I believe that whatever it is that you're going through right now, you're going to come out the other side of it an absolute legend. So stay safe, happy reading, and I'll speak to you later. Bye!